Get Rich Education is brought to you by Valhalla Wealth and Ridge Lending Group.
You're listening to the show that has created more passive income for people than nearly any show in the world. This is the powerful Get Rich Education.
Hey, welcome to GRE. This is Get Rich Education, episode 174. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. I'm bringing you today's show from the Dominican Republic, and I've got some material to share with you that you've probably never heard before in your life, and it is going to have a deep impact on your life, your perspective, and your outlook both inside and outside of investing. Last week, I shared with you that I don't want to see you moving to a low-cost state, and I also told you that you need to quit investing only for the long term, and I justify the reasoning. You know something else that you've probably never heard because no finance show wants to say it out loud like this? You want to increase your expenses. Yes, you heard that correctly. What kind of financial blasphemy is this? You want to increase your expenses. Well, maybe not right now, but at least over the long term, yes, you do want to increase your expenses. That's how you increase your standard of living, increase your quality of life, and buy back your time with money. We're going to talk today about how important it is to buy back your time. No one really wants to cut their expenses, but that's what traditional financial planning focuses on. But see, you kind of already know that you want to increase your expenses long term. Increased expenses, that results from how you pay the mountain guide to summit Mount Kilimanjaro. Increased expenses, that results from how you send off more money to donate to your church. Increased expenses, that's how you move up out of your tiny apartment where you're sharing a bathroom with a roommate that you don't even like half the time, and you buy your own home and you've improved your standard of living. So being responsible for increased expenses, that might even be why you own a fourplex building with its greater expenses rather than a single family home, although you're outsourcing some expenses there in that case. But here's the real key. You need to increase your income at the same rate or faster that you increase your expenses. Okay, that's how increased expenses are a reflection of your prosperity rather than a road to poverty. If you drive an old car and you want to replace it with a new one that has a $700 monthly payment on it, well, that's a new increased expense in your life. But don't just go buy the car directly. The way that you can afford that increased expense is to first buy the rental property that throws off $700 of monthly cash flow or more. Now your tenants pay for the car while you're simultaneously reaping the other four benefits of the income property. Now you're driving a better car because you've, again, increased your expenses. No one really wants to cut back. No one really wants to live below their means. You might do what you have to do in the short term, but at least over the long term, we all want to dine in a restaurant and only look at the left side of the menu and not have to look at the right side at all, where the prices are. If you're only investing in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs that don't provide cash flow, don't produce income, then I don't think that you very well can justify increasing your expenses because those instruments just don't produce income like real estate does. So it can be very clarifying for you to stop looking at places where you can cut expenses from your life and instead say out loud what seems like absolute blasphemy around the finance space. I want to increase my expenses because you know that's what you really want, and now you know how to back up and justify that statement. At least that's where you want to be over the long term. Increased expenses shouldn't mean reckless spending like it could be if it occurs at the same income level. That's what can drive one to poverty. Instead, increased expenses, that's a reflection of your greater income. Chartering a private jet rather than flying commercial with coach seats, that's an increased expense, and the result was saved time and a better lifestyle. You didn't even have to see the inside of an airport, and that's something that doesn't add anything to your quality of life. Now let's look at the other side of the coin, cutting back. Recently, there was a major media news article. It's in the show notes here. And some of this was motivated by a Wait But Why article that I'll link you to. But this major media article focused on how this guy, he's in his 30s, he saved an additional $13,000 per year by cutting back in 3 areas of his life. He severely and painfully cut back on housing, food, and transportation. And to give you an idea of how much this article can deflate your spirits and stifle your ambition, this article suggested that in order to save more money, you could skip condiments on your food. Yes, you can forego food condiments to reduce expenses, like skip the mustard and the horseradish. I mean, geez, I'm not kidding. So someone's idea of financial betterment is basically, hey, I like ketchup and relish on my hamburger, but if I skip the ketchup, I could save 14 cents. And if I skip the ketchup and the relish, maybe I could save a total of 22 cents. And that way I'll be eating a dry burger and it's going to be awfully difficult to finish it this way. But my reward at the end is that I'll be banking 22 cents. I mean, that is, in my opinion, horrible financial guidance. You need to ask yourself a better question instead. You're asking yourself how you can reduce your expenses. But once you're honest and clarifying with yourself, you don't really want to reduce your expenses. So ask yourself, how can I increase my income in order to responsibly increase my expenses? See, now you have a motivation to produce, not reduce. What sounds like a more valuable person in society to you, a producer or a reducer? So think about the psychology of this guy, the psychology of the dry hamburger eater. He would probably balk at, paying the activity fees so that his child could compete in sports. He probably skimps on vacation. So he never starts by asking the question, what kind of life do I want to design for myself? Reducing your expenses can deflate your spirit. Learn how to responsibly justify increasing your expenses with something like passive income from real estate. It is a historically proven wealth generator. Just like you know that you really want to increase your expenses, but you've just never heard anyone say it, you are also worth a lot more than you think. You have more potential in you and more value than you even know. I want you to do something for me right now, okay? Just glance over at your right shoulder. Unless you're driving or something, just humor me and look at your right shoulder quickly. All right, now if someone wanted to sever your arm at the shoulder such that you would lose your entire arm, would you do something to prevent that from happening? Yeah, you sure would. You would probably give them $1 million if you had to in order to save your arm. All right, now look over at your right wrist, further down your arm to your wrist. What if your hand were severed at the wrist and there's no way to re-sew it and you didn't have a right hand for the rest of your life? Well, that hand is smaller than your entire arm, but yet I'm sure you would still give $1 million to save it. So your hand is worth at least $1 million to you then. Well, a hand, that's just a tiny part of your whole body. So you're basically telling me that you're worth at least $10 million. Well, then you know that you have $10 million worth of potential in you. You really value life. Your body, your worth, your potential, you put a high value on yourself. Well, then if you do, you should also be treating your time like it's worth an awful lot then. Most people are content with settling for a small life where they also make a small impact on others. Let's talk about the motivation to create passive income so that you can buy back your time. Now, did you know that if you use a pen to make a little dot on a sheet of paper, you can actually fit enough dots on one standard sheet of paper such that each dot represents a day of your life? Just imagine how that would look on a sheet of paper. 365 dots times, say, 90 years of your life. Each day as a dot does fit on one sheet of paper, okay? So each of those dots is only a single Tuesday or Friday or Sunday in your life, yet it fits on this sheet of paper. Instead of measuring your life in units of time, you can also measure it in activities or events. Now, let's just say that you're 30 years old for the sake of this example. We're going to continue to be optimistic, and we're going to say that you live until you're 90, all right? Well, you've only got 60 autumns left in your life. You've only got 60 more times that you'll see the leaves turn color and fall down onto the ground. If you're 30 and you're going to live until 90, maybe you've only got 60 Super Bowls left in. Maybe you enjoy swimming in the ocean. Unless you live near a warm coast, you might only go swimming in the ocean once per year. So as weird as it seems, you might only go in the ocean 60 more times in your entire life. And that includes that you'd still want to swim in the ocean when you're age 80 and 90. How many books do you read in a year? Most don't read any, but what if you read about 5 books in a year? Even if to you it seems like you're going to read an endless number of books out there in the future, you would actually have to choose only 300 of all the books out there to read and accept that you're going to sign off for eternity without knowing what goes on in all of the rest. How often do you attend a baseball game or an NFL football game? Maybe you go once every other year. Well, then that means you're only going to attend 30 NFL football games for the rest of your life. If you're 30, there have been about 8 presidential elections during your lifetime, and there are only about 15 to go. So you've seen 5 presidents in office, and if that rate continues, you're only going to see about 9 more. That's it. Do you like eating pizza, but you're health conscious, so you only eat pizza about once a month? Well, then you've only got about 700 more chances to eat pizza for the rest of your life. All right, now these are all events that you experience with about a similar frequency throughout your life, so they're spread out somewhat evenly for you throughout the course of your life. If you're about 1/3 of the way through life, then you're about 1/3 of the way through each one of those activities or events. But more importantly, think about how your relationships and how this time is even more fleeting. What about your parents? How much time do they have left? During your first 18 years of life, you probably spent some time with your parents during at least 90% of your days back then. But if you've since headed off to college or you've even moved away, then maybe you've only seen your parents and you see them an average of, say, 5 times each year for an average of, say, 2 days each time. Well, that's only 10 days a year. That's so much less time than you spent with your parents during your childhood years. Then let's say that you turn out to be one of those lucky people to have both of your parents alive into your 60s. That would give each of you about 30 more years of coexistence. So if the 10 days a year thing holds, well, then now that's just 300 days that you have left to hang out with mom and dad. That's less time than you spent with them in any one of your 18 childhood years. So when you look at that reality, you realize that despite not being at the end of your life, you may very well be nearing the end of your time with some of the most important people in your life. If you lay out the total days that you'll ever spend with each of your parents, assuming you're as lucky as you can be, then this becomes starkly clear. It turns out that when you graduated from high school, you had already used up 93% of your in-person parent time, and now you're enjoying just that last 7% of that time, or even the last 2% of that time. If you're older than 30, you are on the tail end either way. So it's probably a similar story with your brother or your sister. They're of different ages than you, so you might have grown up in the same house as them for just 10 or 15 years. You might now live far apart from them and spend maybe 5 or 15 days with each of them a year. Well, that might only leave you with 10% of your total hangout time left, and this is with your own brother or sister. And the same thing often goes for old friends. You are in the end times with these people. So, well, what do you do with this information? I mean, this can be a little bit depressing. Well, you need to set aside your secret hope that technological advances are going to let you live to age 800. But really, I think there are about 4 takeaways here. Number 1, living in the same place as the people that you love matters. It's kind of the whole don't follow money, make money follow you thing that I talk about here so much. You probably have 10 times the time left with people who live in your city as you do with the people who live somewhere else. I think the second takeaway is priorities really matter. Your remaining face time with any person depends largely on where that person falls in your list of life priorities. So make sure this list is set by you, not by some unconscious inertia or some boss's unreasonable schedule out there or something. I think the third takeaway is that quality time really matters. If you're in your last 10% of time with someone that you love, keep that fact in the front of your mind when you're with them and treat that time as what it actually is. That is precious. Your life is worth a lot more than $10 million. We already figured that out. So it's about quality time. And then I think fourthly and finally is passive income helps solve this problem. We're talking about income that you're not trading your time for and where you're not tethered to just one geography. People are all too willing to spend chapters of their life on a mission that they don't really care about or with people that don't really fulfill them, usually in the quest to trade away their time for dollars, something they often regret. If you want an extraordinary life, then you need to give up a normal one. Creating a first-class life, that means doing things that a lot of people are unwilling to do. Most people choose comfort and security over freedom. If you want to go first class in what you do, you need to start making choices that no one else is. And everything has a cost. If you say yes to an opportunity, that means that you're saying no to a whole lot of others. Unfortunately, most people just choose good opportunities, not great ones. That's kind of settling. That's saying, oh, that's good enough. They don't have the patience or the poise to pass and wait for something better. It does take patience in the beginning to build this on the side. It might even take some expense cutting, but that's just not where you want to be long term. So build a lifestyle such that you can do what you want to do, live where you want to live, and be with who you want to be with. That is financial freedom. And you know, the guy that skips his hamburger relish, he is not going to create financial freedom no matter how often he goes ahead and skips that ketchup or whatever. The tragedy of life is not death, but what we let die inside of us while we live. That's Norman Cousins. Some people like to say YOLO, Y-O-L-O, you only live once, but then they kind of go on living like they've got 14 lives. So 10 years from now, just make sure that you can say that you chose your life. You didn't settle for it. You know, I've never really related to the person that says, I'm just killing time about any part of their life. I don't really know if you want a person like that in your life. Since life is made up of chapters of time, if you're killing time, then you're really just killing yourself. They say that hell on earth is that if on the last day of your life, while you were lying there on your deathbed, that what you do is you meet the person that you could have become. Don't meet the person that you could have been and then find out that they're substantially different than what you really made of yourself by settling. Most people give up on their dreams early. That's why most people die at age 25, and it's just that they're not buried until they're age 85. Did you die at 25? I really hope not. When your dream dies, when you let others dampen your ambition, that's when the real you essentially dies. The tragedy of life is not death, but what we let die inside of us while we live. MC Laubscher is the host of the top-rated business and investing podcast, Cash Flow Ninja, and also the president and chief wealth strategist of Valhalla Wealth. They help busy people build wealth outside of Wall Street by strategically combining their clients' cash flow statements with the financial vehicle of the wealthy, according to the infinite banking concept. If you are interested to learn how to perpetually multiply your wealth, you can access an exclusive webinar at yourownbankingsystem.com. Cash flow real estate investors, if you're looking for a mortgage loan with a company that specializes in investment property loans, it's Ridge Lending Group. They provide income property loans in almost every U.S. state. Ridge has worked with tens of thousands of investors and homeowners all over the country. In fact, with ethics and transparency, they've helped more people realize their dreams through real estate investing than any other mortgage lender in the country. Get started at ridgelendinggroup.com.
This is David Campbell from Hassle-Free Cash Flow Investing. Listen to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold, and don't quit your daydream.
Yeah, remember that music? That was the original theme music for the show here. I'm in the beautiful Dominican Republic today, just vacationing well with my wife after I spent most of last week checking out cash-flowing real estate markets in, relatively nearby Florida. After my time here in the Caribbean, we made the long flight back to Anchorage, Alaska, and then I'll only be there for 11 days. Then I'll be making another long trip to Belize. I'll be in Belize for about 6 days to check out some real estate opportunities for you there. And these are some really long flights. If you look on a map or a globe, just check out how far it is from Anchorage to Florida or Anchorage to Belize in order to get some appreciation for it. It's just a few investing bits out there I want to share with you. Sam Zell, he's a famous American businessman and real estate investor. He recently said that interest rates are going to go up because employment is going to go up. If employment goes up, then our rental properties get filled. The reality is that increased economic activity combined with increased interest rates is basically bullish for real estate. That's what he said. Yeah, I generally agree with that. Most people thought interest rates would have been far higher by now, and they've still been pretty sticky at these relative lows. Most everyone expects the Fed to make a few rate hikes this year. Higher mortgage interest rates, which are not tied to Fed rates, by the way, but higher mortgage interest rates can obviously squeeze your cash flow on new purchases as the cost of money goes up. But remember, higher interest rates mean higher rent incomes for you. That's because renters that want to be first-time homebuyers can't be first-time homebuyers when higher mortgage rates makes it more difficult for them to qualify, and it's affordable for fewer people. That drives rental demand for your income property. Hey, well, as far as the Sam Zell quote or the article about the guy who cuts back on hamburger condiments, we've had discussions about those things over on our Get Rich Education Facebook page, so feel free to join in over there. I also made a video about how you actually do want to increase your expenses. That's on our Get Rich Education YouTube channel so that you can see more there. There are a few things that you want to keep in mind as an investor that have to do with taxes, LLCs, and appreciation versus cash flow. I think that some people have a real misperception about taxes. Yes, taxes are important. They're our greatest expense. But even Rich Side Advisor Tom Wheelwright, who you would think would have a motivation to want to overstate the importance of taxes, even he says, don't let the tax tail wag the dog. And I want to talk about what I think he means. Because look, when you're talking about an investment, your return, that's like an entire pie, and taxes are just a piece, a smaller portion of that pie. So just say that you have two pies in front of you, a big pie and a little pie. We'll say that the big pie represents a 20% return. So you've got a big 20 there, and the little pie represents an 8% return. So we've got a big 20 next to a little 8. Well, I would rather have the big pie and pay a 50% tax on it and only get to eat half of it, meaning that half of it were taken away, that 50% piece. Because half of a 20% return is a 10% post-tax return that I've gotten from this big pie. I'd rather have that than pay a smaller 25% tax on the little pie, because if 25% is taken off the little 8% return pie, well, then the little pie's post-tax return is just 6%. Well, it was 10% post-tax from the big pie, even though I paid a bigger tax. So yes, in that case, I'd rather pay the higher tax because the big pie's post-tax return is greater. So I think that people oftentimes get so concerned with paying as little tax as possible that they'd rather have a diminished income or a diminished return just to pay less in tax. You should be more concerned with the return that an investment produces than what its tax treatment is, although both are germane. So your income or return is the pie, and taxes are only one piece of that pie. Rate of return is more important than tax treatment. Now, there's something that I want to tell you about LLCs, limited liability companies, and I need to be careful, and we have that disclaimer at the end of the show here because I'm not an attorney. Why do you think you need an LLC? Now, there are certainly different answers to that question. Sometimes it's more for asset protection. Sometimes it's more for anonymity or something else. If you're just starting out and your portfolio is relatively small, just consider here foregoing forming LLCs until you've got something to lose that's more substantial. If you've only got 2 turnkey properties with 20 or 30% equity in them, and you don't have a lot of other unprotected assets in your life, then ask yourself why you're forming an LLC at all. What assets do you have to protect? And everyone has certain risk tolerances, and I understand that, but you really need to ask yourself that question, because forming and maintaining an LLC, that often means that now you have to maintain corporate structure, engage a registered agent, have separate accounts. Then if you want to refinance the property, you often need to quit claim deed ownership between your own name and an LLC name. And, before you go through all that, just first ask the question, now, why do I want an LLC? And then ask, how many assets do I really have to protect here? Look, sometimes before the LLC layer even gets challenged in a lawsuit, you have other layers of protection that require following fewer corporate formalities or none of them. Your landlord's insurance policy, sometimes that affords you some pretty good protection already. Having a low equity position, that means there's less low-hanging fruit for a plaintiff attorney to go after. But actually, do you know what your first line of defense is in a lawsuit? It's really something that almost everyone overlooks. Maybe you think it's the low equity position, or you think it's the landlord's insurance policy, but it's not. Or maybe you think it's umbrella insurance. Nope, it's not that either. Your first line of defense is being a good operator. It's simply being a good operator, seeing that your property is taken care of, your premises are being maintained in that clean, safe, affordable, and functional condition. Your manager's doing their job. That's your first line of defense. It's being a good operator. You know what else you need to consider before setting up and getting overly concerned with the nuances of LLCs? It's the fact that lawsuits are actually rare. I've been an income property owner for more than 15 years, and I have had countless tenants. I've been around this industry since 2002, and not only have I never even been threatened with a slip and fall or any similar type of case, but I've never even known anyone that has. I mean, zero. Nobody. You probably don't know anyone that's had it happen either. So lawsuits are rare, and then an LLC, it may or may not even help you out that much. If you think that you need to know everything about LLCs before you even start building passive income and buying your life back, you just have to ask if that's really the best use of their time. Throughout your investment life, you're going to spend the earlier part of your life growing your assets, and then the later part of your life protecting those assets down the road. Now, I do use LLCs because I have a known name in the industry and I don't want to be a target. Now, I cannot absolutely discourage you from setting one up or watch. That's when someone will have something bad happen, but ask yourself why you're setting up LLCs and weigh the risk versus the reward and the cost versus the benefit. And really the last thing that I want to tell you to keep in mind out there, in addition to taxes and LLCs, is appreciation versus cash flow. As cash flows continue to get squeezed in markets, keep in mind that cash flow is what enables you to control a property, but appreciation is often where you receive a greater return. I think I mentioned before that most every property I've ever bought, and I've owned for a few years and then sold, whenever I've gone back and kind of done a forensic analysis on where my greatest return came from, I receive more financial benefit from appreciation than I have from cash flow. It's that power of leverage. Compound interest is lame, and it's leverage that helps you create wealth. That's just a little something to consider while you're looking at a market like in Dallas and you see that cash flows are becoming thin while the appreciation potential looks great. Personally, I don't buy for negative cash flow, though. That's the conservative part of me after investing through the mortgage meltdown 10 years ago. Buying for cash flow, even if it's a small one, that's what helped save me. So I hope that gives you a new perspective on how to think about taxes, real estate LLCs, and appreciation versus cash flow after we talked about the importance and the value of controlling your time. With tighter inventory here, markets are definitely changing. Right now, our Kansas City provider is ramping up from B-class properties, and they're going into B+ and even some A-class acquisitions there in Kansas City. They think that should give them the capability of doing more volume because B-class properties in Kansas City are just very hard to come by right now. So They're ratcheting it up a notch in terms of quality. You can learn more about them at getricheducation.com/KC. They're actually the same provider that furnishes Dallas turnkey property. Dallas continues to be one of the hottest housing markets in the United States, like I was writing about in the Get Rich Education newsletter that I sent to you a few weeks ago. You can never count on appreciation. Dallas has had it for a while, and many people feel like there isn't an end in sight. You can connect with the provider at getricheducation.com/Dallas. That's getricheducation.com/Dallas, and you can take a look at some properties through there. Until next week, I'm your host, Keith Weinhold, and I'll be back next week to help you build your wealth. Don't quit your daydream.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Get Rich Education, LLC exclusively.
Ranked by Forbes as one of the fastest growing cities, Orlando, Florida has a big and diverse economy, yet still features affordable rental properties that cash flow. Our boots on the ground turnkey provider, Greg Bond, wrote a special report to help you discover the amazing market of Orlando. Request your free copy today. Visit getricheducation.com/Orlando. That's getricheducation.com/Orlando.
The preceding program was brought to you by your home for wealth building, getricheducation.com.